So whether you know him or not, chances are Bruce Vilanch has made you laugh. He is a 6-time Emmy Award-winning comedy writer and actor. Vilanch is best known to the public for his 4-year stint on Hollywood Squares. He is a featured writer for the Tonys, Grammys, and Emmys, and is head writer for the Oscars. And he's written for countless stars, such as Bette Midler, Diana Ross, Billy Crystal, Lily Tomlin, Robin Williams, among many, many others. Bruce Vilanch, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Any excuse to get to the Hamptons.
You started out in the business as an entertainment writer. After graduating college, you were hired to write features for the Chicago Tribune. Why did you take a job as an entertainment writer, and what was your ultimate goal at the time?
My ultimate goal was to be a movie star, but obviously that didn't pan out. I was a child actor, and I just, I was fat and had a deep voice like this, and I looked older, so I was auditioning. As I began to get older, I was auditioning opposite people like Paul Sorvino, and it didn't really make much sense because they were all getting the parts. So I thought, I'm never going to work this way, and I began writing about it, and I discovered I had a knack for writing. So I kind of pursued that, encouraged by my parents who kept saying, you need something to fall back on. And, journalists, they said, newspaper people always get jobs, which little did we know that was all going to come crashing down some years later.
Right.
But so I started writing, and I got a degree from Ohio State in journalism, and I wound up at the Chicago Tribune, where I was writing features and doing all that Rex Reedy kind of writing. And I met Bette Midler and began writing for her. She was just starting out. And one thing led to another. I discovered I had this aptitude for writing, and kind of just thought, okay, well, I'll just go about it that way. And someday, after I've established myself as a writer, I'll be an actor. I thought I'll do like what Mel Brooks and Woody Allen did, write themselves into everything. And sooner or later, people couldn't say no to them as an actor. They had too much power.
You have written jokes for so many stars. I just mentioned a few: Billy Crystal, Lily Tomlin, Roseanne Barr, Rosie O'Donnell, Elizabeth Taylor. How did this start? It started with Bette Midler?
Yes, she was the very first. And I have to give a nod to Kay Ballard, who, of all people, who was probably the second.
Wow.
I met her in Chicago, and she was doing a show, and I started writing for her. But that was the one that really that caught on. She was at the very beginning. She was on Broadway in Fiddler on the Roof, playing one of the daughters. And this was on her vacation. She came to Chicago and did her nightclub act. And she wasn't talking much, but what she said was hysterical. And I interviewed her for the paper, and she liked the interview. And afterwards she said, well, you're a very funny writer. And I said, well, you're a very funny performer. You should talk more. And she said, you got any lines? And I began. And she happened. And as a result, people began calling me saying, oh, you're the guy who writes for Bette Midler. Would you write for me? And one thing led to another, and pretty soon I said goodbye, Chicago, and I was in Hollywood writing variety television. Remember that?
Wow. Variety television.
It morphed into award shows. Now you can't have variety television unless there's a competition. Can you imagine if there had been an Ed Sullivan show and the judges got to vote on who stayed?
So how do you write for somebody else? When you write for someone else, what's your process? Is there anything you do to sort of get inside the psyche or the persona of the person you're writing for?
That's exactly it. It's kind of like what Bob Mackie would do if he was designing a dress for somebody. I mean, he wouldn't put Estelle Getty in the same outfit he designed for Raquel Welch. And it's the same thing. It's you size them up. You look and see who they are and what will fit them, literally. And it involves doing a lot of homework. And people keep saying, well, it's kind of like being a playwright. And it is, except that a playwright has an even harder job. The playwright has to come up with the characters from scratch. These people come through the door and they have their persona already intact. And you're writing for that persona. It's kind of like a gorgeous woman who's already had all the work done. So you can just adorn her with stuff that makes the work look good. So the hard part is when somebody like Johnny Depp comes onto the Academy Awards, and there is no Johnny Depp character. You've never seen Johnny Depp in concert.
Right.
So he only plays the characters that are written for him. So you have to figure out what he's going to do as Johnny Depp. And it's all of them are like that. There's no Scarlett Johansson tonight. I mean, there's an actress, and you have to give her a little mini role to play when she's on stage speaking. So that becomes like a playwright. That you really are coming up with a character.
That's very interesting. I suppose that it's all then intuitive on your part.
Yeah, but you do homework.
Yes.
You study them and look and see their speech patterns and what's happened in their life and career that they would be willing to make a joke out of. So there's a lot of due diligence.
So who would you say has been the most fun to write for, and who has been the most difficult?
Well, the most fun was Bette, obviously, because I've been working with her for 42 years, which is unusual, as she's only 36.
Oh, my goodness. She looks fabulous.
I don't know how she does it. But, she's right up there. And Whoopi, of course, is tremendous fun. And I got to sit next to her in a square for 6 years, and that was fabulous. And I love Steve Martin, and my favorite Oscar host is Hugh Jackman because he's so versatile. And it's such a surprise that he can do all of these things. So those are my faves, I suppose. You tend to block out the difficult ones. The difficult ones are people who generally don't know what they're doing and don't have anything to don't have anything to contribute. I mean, everybody has a bad day or is in a snit or is insecure or crazy. But I've learned in the great wisdom of my years that you just kind of roll with the punches.
Well, when asked about writing for Robin Williams, you've said it's more accurate to say that you've written comedy at Robin Williams than for
That's right.
him. What did you mean?
You throw it in the cage, and you watch him devour it. The writing for Robin consists basically of sitting with him and just talking and recording it, and then picking the gems out, picking the stuff that you want to use later, and then kind of putting it on a page so that he remembers to remind him of what was said. It would be very difficult to sit down and write a page of stuff for Robin because his style is so off the cuff. But there's something spontaneous happening in every performance, and it gets incorporated into succeeding performances. Every great performer is like that.
If you're just joining us, I'm speaking to Emmy Award-winning comedy writer Bruce Vilanch, and this Saturday, June 30th, Bruce will be coming to Bay Street Theater in Sag Harbor for a very special evening entitled Big and Tall, an evening with Bruce Vilanch and Judy Gold. And for tickets and more information, you can go to baystreet.org or call 631-725-9500. We'll talk more with Bruce Vilanch in just a few minutes, right here, 102.5 BAZ. Bruce Vilanch is a 6-time Emmy Award-winning comedy writer and actor. He's a featured writer for the Tonys, Grammys, Emmys, and is head writer for the Oscars. And he has written for countless stars such as Bette Midler, Diana Ross, Billy Crystal, Paul Reiser, and Robin Williams, among many others. Do you have any say when it comes to casting the Oscars?
Well, I guess I do have say. I mean, I consult. As some years I'm the head writer, some years I'm just on the team. It really depends. But it's been 23 years, so after a while, we all talk, the producers and the talent coordinator. It's that little core group of people who sit and discuss who might be good for this thing and that thing and the other thing. But, I mean, I don't have veto power.
Right. I ask because a few years ago in 2011, when James Franco hosted the Oscars with Anne Hathaway, his performance was widely criticized, and you were among those who had some not so nice things to say about what he did or didn't do on stage. And you guys got into sort of a publicized feud, and you gave an interview to Vulture, and he tweeted that you let him down. So in your opinion, was it just a matter of poor casting? And if you had to diagnose the problem, put your finger on what he did wrong, or what would that be?
Well, probably taking the job is what he did wrong because it's out of his comfort zone, and that was what I said. I mean, I was on a red carpet for the opening of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which Bette produced, and this guy from Vulture grabbed me and started vilifying Franco, and I was defending him. And I said, look, I wasn't criticizing. I said it was out of his comfort zone. This is the kind of thing that you really have to have a little bit of understanding of what the requirements are, and he'd never done it before.
Right. And
then Anne Hathaway is a different kind of instrument. She studies and she really prepared, and she's kind of precision, and he's not. He approached her from a different angle. He wasn't around a lot, What I didn't mention, because I was protecting their reputations, was that he had a bunch of writers working for him who didn't do a very good job. We had to fix a lot of what they did. A lot of it was unfixable. And, and I got the blame for it. And I was stupid to say anything to anybody on a red carpet. I'm probably stupid to say it to you now on this show. We subsequently made up, and we are friends, and he understood what I was doing after he reviewed it, because I wasn't criticizing him at all. But the media jumped on it because that's what they do.
Wow, so, I'm surprised to hear that you got the blame for it.
Yeah, well, I'm around. I mean, I've been there 23 years, and I'm associated with it, and so that's what happens. People take a shorthand. That's what they do. You can't fault them. I mean, that's the way it is. There are a lot of other people who work on that show too, who don't have the visibility I have. But what can I tell you? Mm-hmm. I was on Hollywood Squares. I was starting Hairspray, and they made a movie about me 12 years ago, all about how I do this stuff.
Yes.
Called Get Bruce. From Miramax, available on Disney Home Video. It can be Netflix for a pittance.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because, you have made a career out of not being in the spotlight. For years and years, you've been in show business and you've been incredibly successful, but your work is often hidden behind a big star like Bette Midler or Robin Williams, Elizabeth Taylor, whoever you're writing for at an award show. And I'm wondering how that feels.
How it feels that other people are saying my words.
Yeah, to not be in the spotlight when you do so much of the work. Yeah.
Well, the spotlight came for me so much later than for most people. I mean, I'd been working behind the scenes for 20 years, and then all of a sudden, when I was on Hollywood Squares, I was on television every night, and I was a public personality. So I had 20 years of observation. I got to watch everybody else and how they behave when the light shines on them. So I kind of had some armor. I developed a hide.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't bother me. I mean, it's somebody said to me, "You've been wanting to go to Broadway all your life," and I said, "Well, yes, but if I really, really, really wanted to do it, I wouldn't have waited until I was 54 years old to do it." So when you have that passion, that type A personality that you have to be on the front line, and you have to have the light shining on you constantly, it happens to you much earlier. I obviously didn't have that, but I sure took it when it came.
Yes.
I didn't shirk.
And you're marvelous on stage. I also wonder what it must be like to be famous among the famous, but not as famous among the public. And what I mean is you are very well known in the entertainment industry as a writer for television, award shows. And while people may recognize you from Hollywood Squares, you're less known to the public for your writing. So do you feel like being famous among celebrities makes up for being less famous on a larger mainstream scale?
Oh, I suppose if being famous is your goal,
right?
I mean, I just wanted to have a good time, and I wanted to do what I did. The being famous part is 99% of the time a perk.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just it's a pain because like the Franco thing. I mean, I have nothing. I like Jimmy, and I don't have anything against. I mean, I'm sorry that the situation worked out the way it did. But if I weren't famous, I wouldn't have been pounced upon on the red carpet,
right? And
gotten into that kind of trouble. So that's the other side of it. And the fact that I'm famous and look like Michael Moore means I get attacked in airports by Republicans. I can only imagine what he goes. I'm waiting for somebody to come up and to him and say, "You big queen, how dare you?"
I suppose
I'm sorry, you've mistaken me for Bruce Vilanch.
Exactly. Well, I suppose that's another perk of all your success, is to be mistaken for Michael Moore.
Well, it's not as much fun as Shelley Winters. I used to get her a lot.
Wow. So you did a show about 10 years ago, a one-man comedy show that you performed off-Broadway called Almost Famous, which was sort of a response to your lack of public notoriety. And I was wondering, after a lifetime of writing for others, what was it like, what is it like to write for yourself? Did you get more satisfaction out of it, less? How is it different?
Oh, you get more satisfaction because you get the full process. You get the gratification if something works. So you eliminated the middleman. which is the superstar who's paying you.
Yes.
But on the other hand, you have to make your own money, and also you get to suffer all the agony of having things that don't work, and you can't palm it off on anybody else. You can't say, "Oh well, Whoopi would have gotten a laugh at that." You just have to blame yourself. So it's ultimately a lot of fun, and I suppose more rewarding. Although the kind of writing I do is very collaborative. I'm in a room with a lot of other people a lot of the time when I'm writing, and you always wind up solitary at the computer, or if you're Jane Austen with a long piece of foolscap, you always wind up by yourself at some point writing. But a lot more of the writing that I do is collaborative than not. So you're getting the fun of having the human interaction in addition to writing the stuff. And when you write for other people who are going to perform it, then you get even more human interaction.
Well, tell us just a little bit about the show that you're doing with Judy Gold at Bay Street.
We're each going to do a large part of our shows, which is my show is telling stories about all these different things I've done and the people I've met, and it's very crazy. And Judy is it's more of a stand-up. I mean, she's a tremendous stand-up, and we'll each be doing part of our routines, and then we'll probably do a little something special together because we're so fond of each other.
Some duets.
Maybe that Angela Lansbury played duets, but we play lesbian tennis pros.
That I would pay a lot of money to see.
That was Deuce. Right. Duets is a show on television now where you get to coach an unknown and actually sing with them.
Right.
I need to try that. I need to try.
Well, this afternoon I've been speaking to the enormously talented comedy writer and performer Bruce Vilanch, and this weekend you have a chance to see him live on stage with Judy Gold in a show they're bringing to Bay Street called Big and Tall. An evening with Bruce Vilanch and Judy Gold on Saturday, June 30th at 8 p.m. And to purchase tickets, call 631-725-9500 or go to baystreet.org. Bruce Vilanch, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks. Take care.